If you've been watching this whole Candace Owens and Turning Point situation since Charlie Kirk was assassinated, you probably feel confused, uncertain, and grieved at the current state of our world. Everyone's arguing over who is real, who is fake, who is cashing in on his death, and who is secretly working against the other side. Everyone has a villain, everyone has a hero, and I want you to take a moment and ask yourself a question. Who benefits when everything is an emergency and nothing is important? Most of us are waking up, grabbing our phones before we even get out of bed and bracing for impact, almost expecting to see half the country in flames. That is the level of tension and crisis we have gotten used to. Constant alerts, outrage, breaking news. We're living in a state of emotional DEFCON 1. Now, nothing is technically on fire today. The world did not end last night, but at the rate we are going with this Candace Owens and Turning Point situation, we can end up there very fast. In my previous video, I talked about the pattern I saw forming around Candace and other truth tellers, and I encouraged you to speak truth in your own lane. That absolutely lit up the comments and showed where people's hearts really are on this. There is an obvious divide. Some of you are convinced Candace is exposing something that might shift the world that we know. Others are just as convinced she is exploiting a man's death and working for the devil. And this divide is not just out there. It's in the churches, friend groups, families, and honestly inside of a lot of us individually. But as I read through hundreds of comments, I noticed something else. Something underneath the arguments about who is right and who is wrong. Something more dangerous than just Team Candace or Team Turning Point. You see, we've been programmed since childhood to pick our favorite fighter, our ultimate hero, someone who always shows up at the last second and saves the day. Whether it was a Power Ranger, Spider-Man, or whatever story you grew up on, there was always a savior, a chosen one, the main character who carried the weight of the world while everyone else watched, cheered, or doubted from the sidelines. And as children, we didn't just watch these stories. We absorbed them. We learned our role. They save the day. We wait to be saved. And on the surface, it's harmless. It's just cartoons, movies, stories, but that mindset did not stay on the screen. It slipped into our daily life, into how we think about change, responsibility, and our part in all of this. It slipped into our politics, our movements, and the way we talk about celebrities, politicians, and truth tellers. Now, instead of looking at ourselves as participants, we see ourselves as an audience. We look for the one voice, the one hero who will say what we will not, stand where we will not, and fight the battles we are too tired, too scared, or too distracted to fight. And that is the mindset I want to confront, because if we don't, we are going to keep repeating the same cycle with every new hero that steps onto the stage. Without even realizing it, we have been trained to outsource our courage, our discernment, and even our responsibility. And we've taken our sharpest, most powerful voices and set them on a pedestal, turning them into wide open targets. Instead of many people carrying the weight of truth together, we pile it onto a few public figures and hope they can hold it. Right now, that programming shows up in how many people are searching for that one rare voice to carry the hope of an entire generation, someone perceptive, who speaks well, someone who can clearly say what people see, connect the dots, call out the lies, and never miss a beat. We follow them, quote them, share their clips, and somewhere along the lines, we start to think, if anyone is going to turn this around, it'll be them. And that is where the enemy smiles. Because when you tie your future to one person, you make his job easy. He does not have to crush millions of truth seekers. He just has to silence one voice. We have all seen some version of this. A leader falls, is taken out, or is suddenly gone. With Charlie, we watched a man assassinated in public. The grief we felt was real and right. A husband, a father, a leader is gone. But underneath the grief, a lot of people felt something else too. A dizzy sense that the floor just dropped out, like hope itself left with that person. Because whether we meant to or not, we turned one human into the voice, the wall, the last hope for a lot of people. And when he was taken, it exposed how much weight one person had been carrying in people's hearts. This is where this turns from healthy to dangerous. Admiring someone who leads well is good. Standing with someone who speaks truth is good. But when your hope drifts away from faith in God, which is the only firm foundation that lasts, and away from a body of courageous people, and settles onto one person, you have built your trust on something that can be lost in a single moment. And that would already be dangerous in a neutral world. But we are not in a neutral world. We are living inside an environment that uses that weakness. Right now, most people are distracted by entertainment, divided by manufactured conflicts, and pacified by comfort and the illusion of choice. It feels like you are making free decisions, but a lot of what you see, argue about, and react to was framed before we ever clicked. Here's the pattern. First, divide and distract. Lock people into teams. These are your people, those are your enemy. Then pump out clips, headlines, and half-truths that keep everyone triggered and exhausted. As long as you are focused on hating the other side, you never stop to ask one simple question: who profits from both? Next, run the same loop again and again, create a problem, stir up a strong reaction, offer a solution that always lands in the same place: more control. Turn up the chaos, then step in and say, to protect this group or to save democracy, you need more laws, more surveillance, more censorship. People are scared, so bribed, they hand over more power in exchange for safety. Most people still think everything's just because the people demanded it. In reality, a lot of what becomes normal life is decided quietly through money, access, and coordinated pressure. By the time the average person hears about it, the direction is already set. They are choosing between different flavors of the same outcome. Even faith gets pulled into this. The enemy does not mind you being religious if your worship can be steered. Pulpits are often used as covers. This rewards the compliant leaders with platforms, access, and money. Tragically, many churches are turned into predictable voting blocks instead of places that teach people to belong to Jesus first and everything else second, including their nation, ethnicity, or denomination. Once that happens, it becomes easy to move crowds with talking points that use God's name while being far from His heart. That is why I keep saying, pray for more people to rise up, not as a slogan, as a survival response to what we are actually living in. Because this whole environment is built to keep you in spectator mode, scrolling, reacting, arguing with strangers, and feeling like that counts as action, while the real shifts in culture and spiritual authority move quietly underneath. So instead of staying stuck in that trap, I want to give you those 5 updated instructions for how to actually live differently inside of all of this. Instruction 1. Pray for truth tellers and for evil to be exposed in high places. Truth tellers, plural, not truth teller. Yes, pray for brave voices speaking up. Pray for protection, clarity, strength, and peace over them and their family. Pray for wisdom and repentance wherever it is needed, including in the people who are talking about them. But do not stop there. Pray for the mom at the school board meeting who is terrified but speaking anyways. Pray for the employee who refuses to participate in corruption at work. Pray for the pastor who risks losing people by preaching what is true. Pray for the journalist who still cares about evidence and not just for clicks. Pray for the whistleblower who knows their job and their safety are on the line. And pray that more would rise up. When you pray for evil to be exposed, you are not asking God to place everything on one person's shoulders. You are asking Him to create a massive unveiling where truth starts coming from every direction, from ordinary people in ordinary places. One brave voice can be targeted. A growing network of awake, truthful people gathered under Christ is much harder to control. Instruction 2. Examine where fear has made you silent. What lie are you holding on to? This is where the spotlight turns from them to you. Maybe your unspoken thought has been, well, this influencer is speaking, so I don't need to. That sounds strategic. It is fear. Maybe it is, I am not smart. I do not speak like that. I do not have a platform. Here's the reality. No one else can sit at your family table and say the thing that needs to be said. They can't pull your coworker aside and challenge them lovingly. They do not live on your street, work at your job, or worship at your church. You do. Some of the people in your life will never listen to anyone else but you. They may have already written all others off. They may never see that piece of content. They might need to hear truth from someone who knows their name, knows their story, and does not feel far away. The question is not, can I be as bold as this person? The question is, what truth has God put in my mouth for my circle that no one else can carry in the same way? Fear wants to convince you that your silence is harmless. It isn't. It keeps people in your reach unchallenged and uninvited into something deeper. Instruction 3, do not tear down truth tellers just because they are not perfect. If we are serious about a movement of truth tellers instead of a celebrity cult, this matters, because a movement of truth tellers will be messy. People will say things clumsily, they will get some things right and some things wrong, they will have rough edges. If we demand perfection from everyone who speaks up, we will scare most people back into silence. Then we are right back where we started with only a tiny group of people willing to take all the hits. Encourage them. Help them to sharpen their words without shaming them into silence. Create an atmosphere where it is safer to try and grow than to stay silent and polished. Instruction 4. Find a way to speak truth in your circle and your everyday life. This is the one most people resist. This is the blind spot. People will do the other 4 all day. They will pray for other truth tellers. They will nod along when you talk about fear. They feel bold sharing clips, but they will not say one honest sentence at the dinner table. They will repost reels, but will not look at their spouse in the eye and say, I do not agree with this. They will type paragraphs in a comment section, but sit silent in their small group. They will send videos in a group chat, but never personally ask their friend, have you really thought about what is going on here? In their mind, they think, I am in this. I am part of the movement. I am doing my part by boosting content. That is the blind spot. Consuming and sharing someone else's courage feels like action, but it keeps you in a safe zone where relationships, comforts, and images are never tested. If I say it plainly, most people just want to stand next to a brave voice without becoming one. They want someone else to take all the hits publicly while they remain protected privately. They want the credit in their own mind for being awake, but they avoid the one step that proves it, saying something true in the place where it could actually cost them. That is why instruction 4 is the one people resist the most. It exposes whether you actually believe what you say you believe, or if you just like being around people who sound brave. Speaking truth in your circle is where excuses die. Instruction 5, find your people, a community of like-minded people. Because without real community, everything I am saying is 10 times harder. Following someone like Candace Owens on social media is not community. That is consumption. There is a place for that, but it will not hold you when things get real. Community is people you know by name and who know you. People who will check up on you. People you can call. People who will show up. When I look at the Follow the Way community, I already see proof that this is possible. I see ordinary men and women with real life struggles who would have every excuse to shut down and scroll, but they still show up. They ask hard questions about faith, about culture, deception, and how to actually walk this out. They share what God has brought them through. They challenge ideas respectfully. They do not just consume, they participate. That is what gives me confidence that what we are talking about in this video is not fantasy. It is already happening in small ways. Ordinary people still choosing to seek truth, show up, and talk about what matters instead of hiding behind distraction. And in your circle, you might be that person. You might be the one who asks the questions that changes someone's life. You might be the one who helps people see what they missed. Not because you are famous, but because you are present and willing. Now let me give you a clear picture of what this looks like when it actually starts to happen. I see pockets of ordinary people who stop waiting for a single leader to do all the fighting. Men and women who become steady, reliable truth tellers in their own circles. Not influencers, not platform chasers, just people who refuse to lie to keep the peace. I see family conversations shifting. The dad who never talks about anything serious finally says what he believes. The mom who always stays quiet says, that does not sit right with me. Teenagers Stop repeating talking points and start asking honest questions. Now imagine workplaces where one person speaking the truth gives three others permission to stop pretending. I see churches where people stop outsourcing conviction to the pulpit. Instead of waiting for the pastor to touch every hard topic, believers talk with each other, not to create division, but because they care more about the truth than comfort. Picture neighborhoods where people know each other again, not as usernames, but as neighbors. People gathered in living rooms, shared meals, sharing scripture, praying together, and helping each other stand. I see the internet becoming secondary instead of primary. When a platform bans or buries something, the conversation keeps going because the relationships are real. Removing one voice no longer shuts down the truth because the truth is being spoken in kitchens, garages, break rooms, and porches. I see systems trying the same pressure tactics they always have, but they do not land the same way because there is no single figure to remove. It is millions of conversations happening out of reach. I see truth coming from places no one expected. The quiet person becomes bold. The overlooked person becomes clear. The one who never thought of themselves as a leader becomes the trusted voice in the circle. And I see an enemy's strategy breaking down because his whole play depends on two things: isolation and dependence on a single figure. When people are no longer isolated and no longer dependent on one person to be their only hope, his leverage collapses. If you forget everything from this video, remember this: your hope was never meant to rest on one person because God is building something through all of us that no single voice can carry and no system can silence. Don't just share someone else's video. Say something true in your own words. Have one real conversation about something that actually matters. Take one step toward building or strengthening real community in your life. Stop waiting for someone braver, smarter, or more qualified. Candace Owens is not our only hope. She is one kind of voice and a chorus that needs to grow. And the real hope behind all of this is Jesus Christ, because He is the one who gives strength to ordinary people and turns small voices into movements that cannot be shut down. The movement we need is not built on pedestals and celebrities. It is built on regular people doing faithful things in regular places with an extraordinary God holding it all together. This is not about tearing anyone down. It is about building something bigger, stronger, and more resilient than any one person could ever be. You're not just a follower of a movement. You're a part of the movement. Speak up, stand up, show up.